Hey y'all, how's it going? It's your girl Treese here, and yeah, welcome back, my BTG Shade Squad. Y'all know what we are here to do. Get into episodes. This is season one, and we're getting into episodes 55 through 58, which is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I still have not had an opportunity to watch today's episode, y'all. This weather has been crazy. It was raining all the time in Costa Rica, but I mean, that's expected to be in a rainforest, right? Um, but then we came back home and last night and it was 55 degrees and rainy. Okay. And I don't know about y'all, but the way I love the rain, but the way the rain affects me, it makes me want to sleep. Which I don't mind that either. I enjoy napping. I enjoy just lounging around. So I was cool with it. However, I had to get back to work, be a mama, all these other things going, watch Beyond the Gates. And did y'all know that I guess I just found out, I don't know if it's like banned in Costa Rica or something, but I couldn't get Beyond the Gates or The Shy or Stars and so I was like, what's going on? I could only get Netflix and YouTube. So I thought that was a little bit strange. But anyway, I just wanted to say I apologize to the members. We were supposed to have a members only live tonight to discuss, but as I told y'all, I couldn't even watch the show until I was on the plane yesterday. And as y'all saw, I was responding to most of your comments. Um, so yeah, so please forgive me. I do plan on rescheduling. Hopefully you guys will be available around 8 or 9 tomorrow night for those members. If you are one, drop down in the chat. Let me know what works best for you. If you're even, because I know it's a holiday weekend too. And so a lot of y'all are going to be on the go. But if you can participate and would like to, or if you're not, you haven't signed up for the membership yet, it's in the description box. Please go ahead and do so. Okay. Because we have a good little kiki. Okay. We say what we want. We get it off our chest. Okay. Especially my good girl Elaine. Okay. But no. Um, so yeah, I appreciate y'all and just thank you for your patience with me and me getting settled back in. But yeah, let's jump right into this episode. Let's get shady. I'm so happy to be back and I missed y'all. All right, y'all. So we open up episode 55. Danny and Pamela was at the Joey's casino. And so basically, Danny is like telling Pamela, look, pull in the winnings, okay? We need to leave the table now so we can leave with something. Doug is just sitting by watching with Joey. And Joey warns Doug that, look, I need you to find a way to get you some money like that. Because if you don't, soon I'm gonna be going into real estate with Vanessa. And I said, you better believe him when he tells you he won't that. Okay. Now, Vanessa over at Uptown, we see her on the phone with Nicole, who apparently is still thinking about selling her house. And Vanessa is like, no, girl, I ain't doing it. I refuse. And she's like, you need a chance to process all of this before uprooting your whole world, which I kind of agree with. You never want to make, you know, especially permanent decisions off of temporary emotions, right? So, all right, y'all. This is gonna be sweet to the point. Warning, warning. Y'all already know what's coming, okay? I'm gonna summarize this in one whole fail swoop. If I missed anything, I apologize, but I'm gonna be honest. You probably only are getting this much out of me because I was so happy to see it go down. So let's talk about it. DNA. All right. Ashley comes home early. She all surprised because Derek done cleaned up the house trying to be helpful, but he ain't cleaned it up the right way. He used stainless steel or stainless wool on the stainless steel, which makes her upset. And basically, just they not. It's not coagulating. You know what I mean? It's not congealed. Okay, it's not coming together. And I don't want to say she don't like him. I think that she loves him, but as somebody before I met my partner that I'm with now. I was absolutely single for 6 years before that, and I loved that life. I loved living on my own. I love being able to do what I wanna do, come home when I want to, not have to come home to nobody. Things left the way they were when I came back. I didn't even like really nobody visiting me for too long. Like, and this is gonna sound terrible because I would never wanna be able to relate to Ashley, but I absolutely could relate to Ashley in this moment. And I could absolutely relate to what she was going through because as I've shared with y'all, when me and my boo first moved in together, that first year was hell, okay? Because I'm just very particular, very clean. I don't know if I'm that OCD, but look, I everything has a space and a place. I'm sorry. I know some of y'all may think that's a bit much, but anyway, it's not about me. It's about Ashley and Derek or DNA, okay? So they get into this argument and exchange. He feel like he can't do nothing right. And basically they just come to the conclusion that they don't need to be together. And which is, I don't want to say it's sad, but Derek does kind of try to let her know because he's like, do you want to get a bigger place? And she's like, not really. And she's like, but the place isn't the problem. We're not meant for each other like we thought we were. I hate to say poor Derek, but Derek was like, damn, I thought we were deeper or bigger than a refrigerator. Apparently not. So yeah, him and Ashley end up breaking up. Okay. Um, and that was that for them this episode. Then Andre goes out to get Eva a gift because we know he had told Ted that it was her birthday and he had planned to help him out. So I guess he had just went and got a picture frame that we remember he took of her the night of the anniversary party. Now that was a choice. And he lets Andre know that Ted lets Andre know, look, I went by the witch's cave earlier to make sure, she ain't have no plans for Eva, the witch we know being Five Guys. And so he wants to make sure that, I want to make sure that Eva don't get caught up in our mess. And Ted explains that Five Guys is more twisted by the second. So Andre is asking him, what do you mean? Elaborate. Ted tells him, look, I don't know what name she's going by now. But apparently she just blames Eva in all of this somehow. And I don't know how she's getting that. So then we jump over to Jacob because remember, he had taken Leslie, Five Guys, Sherry, Dana, whatever you want to call her. Okay. We call her Five Guys over here for the newbies. Okay. Um, he takes her down to the station for questioning. She plays like she's not familiar with Laura. She just knows that, oh, that's Nicole's assistant and claims, I ain't good remembering names. I love Jacob's clapback. He said, well, it's probably because you got so many names yourself. I said, clock it. Yes. Okay. Um, Five Guys points out that, you know what, but that's not a crime. Okay. And asks if she knows. So he asked her if she knows why Laura is no longer Nicole's assistant. And, she had a hit and run accident. So Leslie says, I know what this is about. It's about that little witch cat who ratted me out. Yeah, that was her. I'm glad you knew. And shout out to, I believe I'm pronouncing your name right. Kiran. Shout out to you. He's one of the subs. He actually called it in the comments and said, Leslie absolutely, he believes Leslie absolutely knew that Kat was recording him. And in a way, I do believe that too. If Leslie is one thing, she ain't dumb. Okay. That's why she's the villain we love to hate, because she's not a dumb villain. So I give her that. Now, hey y'all, so y'all want it sidebar. If y'all want to hear a real quick funny story, right? So while I was on the plane, as I said, I was replying to everybody's comments, and I noticed that it was a comment and it was left on episode 50, and it was talking about Randy. And I said, well, me and my squad, we don't really get into Randy like this. So it made me like really go. I almost overlooked it. And then I was like, well, who is this person? What are they talking about? Shout out, Maurice Carey. I'm sorry, Maurice P. Carey plays Randy. Okay. So I thought it was really funny that he dropped down in the comments and he was just talking about how, because I think I was saying something about what's going on with him and Mona, and is he, trying to holler at her? And he was like, well, Randy is naturally charming. And it's the first time we get to see him speak to somebody, speak on with a woman on the show or whatever. And so I replied to him and I said, thanks for chiming in. And I hope we do get to see you have a love interest before Joey takes you out because you won't stop helping Doug. And I said, we'll be here watching it play out. And he just laughed at my response. But I loved it because I could actually tell. Again, this is not like the first time I've had people from shows and stuff jump in my comments, but I always think it's dope when that they've like really watched your commentary. And I know he watched it because he even put a timestamp and it was like 21 minutes in. So he was really like watching the recaps. Thank you so much, Maurice, for taking the time, dropping in the comments, and just supporting. I really appreciate that. I thought that was really dope, and it was kind of a highlight for me. So thank you, and y'all be on the lookout because clearly Randy is watching. Okay, all right. So let's move on. So basically, let's Five Guys is like, okay, so Cat's Chaz is the one that ratted me out, and Jacob's face just gives it away. Poor Jacob. For him to be a cop, sometimes I'd be like, I don't know. So then she tells him, look, I know it was Cat. And said, she wants revenge against me and Eva. And she's like, you shouldn't believe a word that she said. Jacob asked her about her word, about what she said on the recording. Leslie plays coy and says she doesn't know what he's talking about. So of course Jacob plays her the recording and says that, he wants to talk about her blaming Eva for what happened to Laura. And so then we move over to Kat, who happens to be on the phone with Chelsea down at the country club when she ends up running into Tomas. Okay. And that's a big, because it made it, okay. This just made it even worse. And literally my notes say, ugh. Okay. So she's telling Chelsea, oh, I got proof about Eva and whatever. And so he apologizes for bumping into her, which just makes her melt. And basically, this whole thing, just to summarize, this whole episode, Kat and Tomas are pretty much making out in the middle of the country club lobby. He's talking about how he wants to get closer to her. And basically, he wants her to stop focusing so much on Eva and focusing on them getting to know each other. He makes it clear he doesn't want to choose sides. He don't want to be involved. And so she lets him know, I guess the one big thing was she let him know, look, I saw you at Uptown and you and Eva was looking real comfortable. What's up with it? And so of course he's like, no, and I was just comforting her, and she is human, and she's like, oh, the humanity of it. So yeah, the humanity of it all. Okay. Tomas is like, I'm not defending her, but it doesn't mean that she wasn't hurt by what her mother did as well. And Kat asked Tomas if Eva's newfound conscience applies to what she did, and then goes on to ask if it applies to attempted murder because she tried to unalive someone. And so we know he thinks that this is a big accusation, and he's like, you shouldn't be accusing her of that or whatever. Now, Eva meets up with Ted and Andre down at Offrey Jeans. And so Ted asked Eva why she didn't tell him that it was her birthday. And, it says, oh, well, this is the first. I actually thought this was a really sweet scene, y'all. And he was like, well, this is the first time I've gotten to wish you a happy birthday. And I'm sorry, I have never done it before. And, he presents her with her gift, or I haven't had the opportunity to do it before now. He presents her with her gift, which I felt like he could have done a little bit more. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know you may not know her, but Ted, you got some money. I know you got some money. Now, I don't know if you was spending all of it on these hotel rooms for you and Eva, because again, back to me and Elaine's point in the comments, I think it was me, Elaine, and Princess Diamond Cut. We ain't seen a gift show up at Nicole's house yet. So I don't know if that's just not a part of your character. I don't know if y'all ain't got no brand deals with no jewelers or no florists or nothing like that. No chocolates. I don't know. I just I just think it's weird that all the girl got was a frame picture of her. You couldn't go get a Pandora bracelet or something. Swarovski, something. I don't Look, she look a little hippie. I don't know. Alex and Ani, you could have got her something. I'm just saying. All right, let's move on. I'm just saying Ted's giving that he might be a little bit broke. So anyway, he tells her that he hopes that this is the first of many birthdays that they spend together. And so Eva's just so grateful and that he's recognizing her. And she lets him know that she wasn't really expecting anything. And so he wants to order a cake to celebrate. And that's when Andre gets a notification or a call. And so he says that he needs to go handle something. And Eva asks if it's something or someone. I said, ooh. And I think Eva did know it was someone because she was sitting right beside him. And it seemed like she was kind of looking over in his phone. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that peeped that. So Ted asks if she's going to open her gift. And Eva tells him, look, well, I don't want to ruin your dinner. But say, hey, by the way, I stopped by the hotel looking for you earlier and you weren't there. But I did notice that Kat left you a note wanting you to call her. Now, he did call Kat, but this is when Kat was too busy making out with Tomas in the lobby. Okay. One thing I think I did miss is when Pamela and Danny get up from the table and they finally cash out, Danny does ask him, like, well, what are you doing here? And why you didn't sit down and play with us? And so Doug fakes like, oh, I have a phone call or something like that. And so Danny and Pam leave, but you could tell Danny's suspicious. And so Joey then calls Vanessa to meet her for lunch and tells him that, Vanessa said yes, but hopefully not for the last time that day, and asked if he'd like to join. And I said, this is what if I'm not gonna lie to you, if Doug's the actor that plays Doug comes in my comments, I appreciate the support, but I'm gonna say what I need to say. I do not like Doug's character. And I was so here for how Vanessa laid him out, but we gonna get into that. But I do not. He's just the fact that he just lets this man play in his face and with his wife in his face is insane to me. I'm with well, let me be quiet because Vanessa is damn sure no saint. All right. No, so Diego goes into Uptown and he sees Vanessa and he's like, well, I have a date that can actually be seen with me. And then we see Pamela walk in and I was like, okay, what? So and then Vanessa actually does look a little bit jealous. And Diego tells Pam that, and so he ends up kissing her in front of Vanessa. And then when him and Pamela go sit down, she's like, well, what the hell was that? He admits to her that he's jealous. He admits to her that he's jealous. And Pamela was like, she married, right? He was like, even though she act like she not married and everybody knows she run around here throwing that thing back, she married. You need to not be out here catching feelings. And really the Pamela Diego situation was very small. She ends up asking him if he's ever thought about being a model, which I figured when I saw them walk in, I said, that's what she's here for, to see if she can recruit him. I knew that from off dome. But in the meantime, between time, Joey is not far behind, and he basically is want to talk to her about this joint venture and this property that he was looking at. But then it goes from talking about, well, they start flirting, right? And then they start talking about all these houses. But then Vanessa they talking about from the windows to the wall, from working our way to the kitchen, over by the stove and upstairs. I said, oh, all these sexual innuendos. Okay, let's just say we want to do it. All right, because that's what it's giving. But and meanwhile, Doug is at the door, just watching. Don't believe me, just watch. It's all my male BTG Shade Squad out there. I know a lot of y'all have already chimed in and said that Doug is stupid and you don't understand what he's doing. And I understand that it is a script. But I also think we got to make this script real realistic. Okay. And I just don't believe in any universe. I don't even care if you don't damn like your wife. The last thing you want to see is somebody pressing up on her in your face. Unless you owe them some money. So I'm going to give them that, right? But y'all let me know. I just think it's weird. I just think it's weird. I'm sorry. I can't get with this storyline. Um, and so what else about Doug and Vanessa? Oh, and so then to get Joey to go away, he fakes like that he got some phone call or something from his daughter. But I guess this is what the real kit and caboodle was. Once Joey leaves, he tells Vanessa, "Oh no, it wasn't a real phone call." And so she's like, "Oh, so you jealous?" And she was like, "Well, I know we had some passionate sex, okay, the other day, but she said it'll never get us back to where we were." And then she just admits, like, "Look, I'm hunching on other men. I have outside situations, and I know you got yours." And Doug was like, "No, no, I'm not, nobody. That's you." He was like, "You finally came out and said it." She was like, "Yeah, I finally can breathe." I said, "Damn, Vanessa." Okay, but yeah, she lets Doug know that's it. And well, she doesn't say that's it. She says she ain't got no intentions of leaving him, but and she don't think he got any intentions of leaving her, but they will basically never be in love again. This is just where they are. And she walks out and leaves. And I said, even that to me, and Doug just sitting there. Now, I do think one big point, important point that I missed is that she said that if he's not screwing somebody else, it's something else that has his attention. And Doug does admit that that absolutely is the case because we know that he has an addiction. So Jacob is trying to get Leslie, Five Guys, to come clean about, what was said on the recording. And Leslie claims that she was just messing around with Kat because she's been trying to make her and Eva out to be the big bad wolves. She just painted a picture for her of who she should mess with. I said, "Ooh, can you arrest her? Because that was kind of a threat." Okay. And Jacob asks her, "Well, is Eva the big bad wolf?" And Leslie tells him that Eva is incapable of hurting anyone and says if he listens to the rest of the tape, he will hear that she told Kat she doesn't have one shred of evidence that ties Eva to this. And she brings up how there's no witnesses, no motorcycle, and where would Eva hide a motorcycle? So Leslie says, "Look, Eva ain't got nothing to do with this accident." And Jacob reminds her, "But you said this. I'm just listening to what you said on this tape, right? On this recording. Okay." And then she's like, "Well, technically, Kat should be the one that should be arrested because she recorded me without my knowledge." And Jacob was like, "Well, technically in DC, the law says that you only need one person to consent, and that person was Miss Richardson." And I said, "That's right. That's right, Jacob. No, you better pull out your law for once. You better pull out your rule book, brother." Then he circles back to the subject at hand and asks if she's admitting she thinks Eva ran Laura off the road. Five Guys tells him that with the absence of proof, I have the right to leave. And so he said, "Yeah, you do." But he said, "I got one more question for you." And he reminds her that, well, you and Eva plotted on Ted and you needed to get Laura out the way. So which one of y'all were behind that helmet? And I said, "Okay, Jacob, okay. We've been waiting for you to do something for us. Let's take it home. Okay, let's take it home." So Five Guys sits back and says she took advantage of the situation, but she did not create it. And Jacob wants to know, well, where were you that night? And she goes through her phone and she claims, well, I was with Mona and Jan at Off Jeans having lunch, which is absolutely true. However, I love when Jacob follows up and says, "Okay, I'm going to go talk to Mona, but what happened after you had lunch?" And she's like, well, I don't know. And so then she's like, "Well, do I need to get a lawyer?" And he said, "Well, I don't know. Do you? If I had something to hide, I would probably go get one." I said, "Oh, and we know one thing about Jacob. He don't let nothing go. Okay. Thank God they let Malone go, so we ain't got to hear about him talk. So we don't have to hear him talk about that no more. Okay." And like we said, he said, "I'm a boy scout. I'm gonna follow every lead and I'm gonna get to the truth." And so Leslie then tells him, "Well, I'm so thankful that you're on the case. And if only I was a few years younger." I said, "Okay." Um, I said, but it's just so sad that, there's some psychopath out here and we don't know what that person could do next. And I said, if y'all don't understand that this the bitch is telling you to your face that she is the craziest psychopath, I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. Can we make it make sense, please? Now this was a scene that disappointed me. Okay. We see Andre and Danny. They're having one of their sessions. And Andre tells her that, he wants to go out and get something to eat. And she's like, oh, well, why don't we just order in? And so, because she's like, Pamela's at Uptown. And he was like, well, I feel like you don't want us to be seen together. And she was like, well, no, I don't want Nicole finding out this way. It could feel like, someone else keeping another secret from her. And I thought, we agreed that we were just going to keep this on the low. And Andre's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And then he explains, well, we having sex. That's what we doing. We hunching. What you mean? We doing it in the park, doing it after dark. Oh yeah, Rock Creek Park. Okay, I'm sorry. But still, that's what they doing. Nothing more, nothing less. And so you could tell Andre is a little hurt by that. And because he tells her, usually my style, I would have been got bored and moved on to the next thing. He said, no, but I really like you. I like what we doing. I actually like being with you outside of sleeping with you. And Danny tells him, hey, I think that you're a great man. But unfortunately, after being with Bill, I lost myself after being with somebody. And I also want to find myself and be great. And so basically, she just asked him, to keep things where they are at this moment. So he's like, all right, so I'm going to do me and you do you. And I knew in this moment when he got up and left, because I knew he was hurt, because it almost reminded me of the Ashley situation. I said, Danny, he's gone. He's gone, girl. Because you know who waiting for him? Ashley. Speaking of that, so pretty much one of the final scenes in this episode is Ashley at the bar crying because she done called out of work. She's upset because her and Derek have broken up. And Andre walks in and, sees her upset and is like, what's wrong? And, she just falls out crying. And at that point, I think, and Derek is at home packing his stuff up. Eva ends up thanking Ted for the photo of her, but says, the girl in the picture is a liar. And she doesn't want to be that girl anymore. And she says she sees a fake wannabe dressed up in his real daughter's clothes. And Ted tells her that they can take another photo, but explains that he does see his real daughter, and that's what she was then and what she'll always be, and apologizes for not knowing that before. And I said, oh, for a look, Elaine, it softened me up a little bit. I will say that. I know Princess Diamond Cut gonna be in the comments like, Trace, what are you doing? But yeah, nah, that was a sweet moment, and I love Ted for that. I'm just gonna need him to buy some better gifts or just buy some in general. But yeah, that was episode 55, y'all. All right, let's jump into episode 56. Now we know that Anita, we see her down at the country club with Vernon. She's basically still concerned about what Tracy's gonna think and worried about her not showing up. And really, I hate to say it, calling having an Ashley moment. She's just really doing the most with the overthinking. Okay. So Anita feels like Tracy may have, she may have stood her up, and regrets putting herself out there when Vernon realizes that Tracy has walked in. And so he compliments her on how good she looks. And she tells him, well, you are always very flattering, and brings up how, oh, when you came backstage that one time at the show, I believe she said it was the Regal, and you could have had your pick of anybody you wanted, and you left with Anita. And that made Sharon just have a fit. And then she brings up how, she had never seen Sharon so pissed until then. Well, and she says until, and then Anita acknowledges, yeah, I know what you're talking about, until she did whatever she did, because we still don't know. Okay. We just know she treated them ladies real bad, according to her. All right, warning. DNA. Let's get through this real quick. So Derek is so upset that he done packed up his stuff. He ready to move out. Jan shows up with some food for them and basically is like, oh, you guys can work through it. Just give it some time. You're going through ups and downs, ebbs and flows, all this good stuff. Meanwhile, Ashley is at the bar in tears talking to Andre about how she can't hold on to a man because of all of her issues and OCD, and feels like, this could be the end of her relationship. And Andre's like, I think you're overthinking, and I think that you're doing too much. So how about you just go home and and go talk to him. And so she's like, you're right. I just need to go home and tell him I love him. That's it. Just need to tell him I love him. And then I'll solve everything. And so he offers to make sure that obviously she gets home safely because it's getting late and getting dark with, and whatever. Like I told y'all last episode 55, I already see what they, now that Danny has, we know he don't like rejection. So we know Andre about to be out here, okay? I don't think he gonna be on Vanessa's time, but Andre about to be out here. So now Kat walks in the police station to talk to Jacob, and she's asking him if he's questioned Leslie Five Guys about the recording, and he let her know, look, I did talk to her and she just left. And so she asked him, well, did Leslie throw Eva under the bus where she belonged? And Jacob tells her that Leslie said she said all those things just to basically antagonize and agitate Kat. However, Jacob says that based off of what she said, I'm really starting to think that it ain't Eva, it's her. And so of course, Kat just can't accept that Eva didn't have any part to play in this. And I know every dog has its day, and today, Kat, it is yours. All right. Yes, Eva has done a lot of bad things. Yes, you have been absolutely right about Eva in this situation. However, I think being so focused on Eva, you're kind of missing um basically what Laura was able to see, but we'll get there. And not that I really want you with Tomas, but I can understand where he's coming from when literally all you do is eat and dream about Eva and have no time for nothing else. That would irritate me too. And it was so funny because again, I don't like them together, but I was laughing to myself because I said the way Kat out here like a PI, her and Tomas, him being a lawyer, her being a private investigator, that relationship might actually work if she wasn't so honed in on Eva. Okay. So then Jacob brings up how she doesn't really have an alibi for that night. And Kat is more interested in what Eva's alibi is. And he's like, look, I'm going to look into it. You chill out. And Jacob tells her, I'm keeping all the options open, but I do think it's Leslie. And then before Kat runs off, he's like, hey, can you stay out of it? Because this is really not your job. You are not, you ain't got no badge. You ain't, you know what I mean? You ain't got no pow pow. Like, can you stop putting you? And I was kind of thinking that that's another thing that annoyed me too, because you absolutely, I mean, I love that she got whore. That's what we say. She got whore. All right. However, I know a lot of people who got whore and got laid out. Okay. So I'm gonna need Kat to flow a little bit smarter. Now, Tomas has walked into Offrey Jeans, and of course, he finds Eva sitting there alone, staring at the photo that Ted gave her. And so he asked to join her, and she's like, well, I don't think Kat's gonna like that. And so Tomas says, well, look, I'm gonna take the risk anyway, and sits his ass down. I said, you ain't so she asked him about work, and he says that, apparently, because remember, he told Kat last episode that he was going to work, or he was running off to work because he had a late night meeting or something. He basically explains to her that one of the partners bumped him, and right now he's just a lowly associate, and that's what it is, and that's part of his job. Now he compliments Eva on her photo, and she lets him know that, oh, well, it was a gift from Ted, which he's happy to hear. And it's like, well, it's good that you're bonding with your dad. And so Eva tells him about five guys just completely turning against her. And then Tomas happens to mention that he heard that her mother was accusing her for Laura's accident. And so Eva just looks dumbfounded, as I think anybody would. And so he's like, oh, my bad. I didn't realize that you didn't know. And so Eva knew Eva was like, damn, I know my mom is capable of almost anything, but really? And she was like, I didn't think she would go this far. So then Eva denies even knowing how to operate a motorcycle and lets Tomas know that she wasn't responsible for hurting Laura at all. And Tomas was like, look, I ain't think that you did it, but I do think that Leslie could be deflecting the attention off of someone else and is trying to be nice and not say herself. Okay. And obviously Eva picks up on it. So then they start to have this conversation. We learn a little bit more about Tomas and his background. We know he's from Puerto Rico, or at least he's Puerto Rican, but and his dad, I guess, is a lot like Leslie, and he just feels like he's never good enough, but at the same time he loves his father, and so he continues to take the treatment just to have a relationship with his father. And of course Eva can relate, and she's just wishing that Leslie Five Guys was one way all the time with her. Um, so basically she could know how to treat her. Eva says that she keeps holding out hope for love and comfort and hoping that it'll stick. And she just doesn't know how to stop loving. And so then we see Tomas grab her hand, of course, again. She tells Tomas that he deserves better, and he says, well, so do you. Now we skip ahead where Eva was like, look, as because they're holding hands at this point, and Eva's like, I don't think Kat would like it if she walked in and saw me holding hands with her boyfriend. And Tomas makes it clear that Kat, I'm not necessarily Kat's boyfriend. And so she's like, well, why are you saying that? And he was like, because of you. And so she was like, well, what do I got to do with you and Kat? So Tomas finally explains how Kat blew him off and ran to go check in with Jacob about their case against her. And so he was like, damn, she really hate me that much that she trying to get me locked up. But she's like, well, yeah, I did, implode your whole family. So, and, hurt your mama publicly, embarrassed her. I guess I can understand. But of course, Tomas won't let her take no responsibility and says, no, you're not responsible for your mother's actions. And so then Eva gets all emotional, and is just happy that she doesn't feel alone, and says that, and he tells her that if she needs a lawyer, then he'll give her a family and friends discount before he leaves. And I thought that was cute, but we already see what's brewing. And I mean, do we really need another wedge in this already big divided gap, canyon, ditch, whatever you want to call it? But yeah, Cat don't need no other reason not to see it for this little girl, okay? Then we see Leslie walk into Laura's hospital room, which is scary as hell because Laura wakes up looking terrified. So Leslie picks up the pillow and asks, well, and so Leslie picks up the pillow and Laura's like, what are you doing? And so you could tell, yo, I was watching it and I was afraid for Laura. You could tell the joy that she got out of seeing Laura's scared face and seeing that fear that she might actually smother her. So then she introduces herself as Leslie, and Laura said, no, everybody know who you are, girl, because of what you did to Ted and Nicole. So Leslie tells her, you don't know squat about what happened, but the way she said it and with the crazy eyes, y'all, I was scared for her. Okay, I was scared for little Laura. So then she goes into asking Laura how she's doing. And Laura's like, look, I'm just trying to get back to work. And she's like, why are you in my hospital room? Because you still never really answered that question. And so she's like, look, I'm Eva's mother, and the police been asking questions about your accident and if you might know who's responsible. And Laura says, look, I ain't see nothing, don't know nothing, and I told the police that. And I said, smart girl. So Leslie tells her that, she's afraid for Eva and, the optics of how everything looks. And so then you could tell that she's planting this little seed in her brain. As we say over here, she done gave her the little nugget that it could have been Eva. But then backtracks and says, Eva isn't a malicious person, in hopes that they find who did it. Then that's when we see Kat walk into Laura's hospital room when she finds Leslie standing there. And Kat tells her basically, get the hell out, don't come back. And Leslie's like, oh, I didn't know you were in the hospital. So you were in the hospital and you a police informant. You just got so many things going on. And can we ever find out what happened to the purse line? What? Can anybody? I literally just came to my mind. After the damn anniversary party, we ain't heard nothing about that damn purse line. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, y'all, because that's what we're here to do. But I'm just wondering how, just like Malone, it just disappeared. And we ain't even talking about it no more. But okay. Kat then asked her again, look, I don't know what part you didn't get, but get the hell out. And so Leslie walks out and tells her to give her regards to Nicole and leaves. I said, that's nasty work. That's nasty. You a nasty bitch. That's nice nasty. And so Laura tells Kat that she was there acting as Eva was the one that did it. But as she kept going, she felt like Leslie was basically telling her that she did it. And Kat tells her that Jacob is thinking the same thing. And although she hates ruling out evil Eva, shout out to Princess Diamond Cut. So Laura admits that she was scared of Leslie. And although she thought that, she might have motive, she wasn't going to say that to her face because we know she's crazy and deranged. And so she's like, she's just really having trouble about believing somebody would go through all this just for a job. And then she brings up her cardiac arrest, which makes Kat's wheels start turning. And she said that, and shout out, that's why I love Kat, okay? Because not only do we not see it for Eva and her foolishness, but we also like true crime podcasts, okay? And she was talking about how she had listened to this thing about this guy and he was going around and making sure that he finished off his victims if he wasn't able to delete them on the first attempt, right? Laura asked if basically she's in danger at this point. And so Kat reassures her that, like, nah, you good. I'm gonna make sure that security watches over you. Or I'm gonna make sure security's a little tighter and Leslie don't get back in your room. But it ain't safe. It ain't safe. Okay. I don't think it's safe, Kat. And I think Laura know it ain't safe either. But oh well. I think we're going to be saying bye-bye to Laura soon. If at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. All right. Now, Ashley finally makes it home with Andre and Derek is gone, and she starts obsessing over whether Derek is upset with her, and then she realizes the man that moved out. So while Jacob is sitting around trying to find alibis for Eva and Leslie, Derek walks into the station and basically wants to vent about Ashley, and he tells him how he left and basically then asks if he could sleep on his couch. And I said, yo, big grown. And so Jacob's like, hell no. He's like, no, I gotta sleep next to my wife and I ain't trying to hear about it. No, sir. You gotta get somebody else to do it. All right. And basically we end with kind of end with Anita and Tracy. They talking about their past boyfriends when Vernon excuses himself and Anita compliments Tracy on, how she was always the pretty one, but Tracy said that she always hated that. Apparently Dante Green, whoever he is, used to always say that, and it created, just stirred the pot of jealousy that apparently was already brewing between the girls. So Anita reminds her that before they were the articulates, they were sisters. And so as they're reminiscing, Tracy's talking about how she was, thinking about how they got started on her way down on the train. And Anita admits that she's been thinking about it for a while as well. So as they're going through all the memories, they just both agree that they want things to be like they were before it went to hell, is what I have. Tracy is like, oh, damn, I got to go catch my train. But Anita's like, no, please don't go. We're having such a good time. And so Tracy's like, okay, I guess I could stay a little longer. I'll just get a hotel room and, go back the next day. And Anita's like, that's wonderful. But guess what? Not staying at a hotel, staying at my house. And at first Tracy's like, no. And Vernon's like, don't even argue with her. I don't do it. Please don't do it. Okay. And so finally Tracy agrees. And Anita is just over the moon happy. So then Eva runs into her mama on her way out of Off Jeans, and Leslie goes to walk out, but Eva stops her and says that, I got something to say. Come hither. Come hither, mama. And so Leslie apologizes for missing her birthday luncheon. And I ain't gonna hold you. This was so funny. And she blames it on having to wash her wigs. I said, cause she getting ready to put them to use again, y'all. Look, I swear, I'm telling you, Laura on her way up out of here, and Lulu about to be the one to pay the visit. And not to mention, I don't know if you clocked, the only reason she was probably even able to visit Laura, because we know Shanice stay at that damn nurse's station. The only reason she was even able to visit Laura was because, remember, Shanice had the day off. Remember, Ashley called her and was like, hey, I know you had the day off. I just wanted to let you know. Boom, boom, boom. Telling you. So Eva confronts her about using her and throwing her out, and now, pinning crimes on her. And we just see, Leslie look at her with her crazy look. Okay. And then, like I said, Kat has run to tell Jacob that Leslie was in the hospital room and she had to kick her out. And she explains that whichever one of them hurt Laura probably also used the potassium to cause a cardiac arrest. And so Jacob says, well, look, I already spoke to the doctor who told me that, a potassium spike can be completely natural. And he's like, look, Kat, I appreciate you, but I don't need no speculation. I need evidence. And so she's like, all right, cool, evidence. And then she's like, well, what about the alibis? And he's like, well, I got somebody working on that, but I got caught up because he got caught up with Derek's grown ass. Okay. And that was pretty much episode 56 of Beyond the Gates. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Like I said, I apologize. This is already a lot longer than I wanted this to be for these two episodes. So this is episode 55, 56. Circle back. And probably by tomorrow morning, while I'm having my coffee, I will go ahead and knock out 57 and 58. So I'll be ready to do 59. Members, don't forget, rescheduling the live. I apologize for missing it, but rescheduling the live for tomorrow night, either 8 or 9 o'clock. So be on the lookout for that notification. For those who are interested, link is in the description box. And yeah, just shout out to all of y'all for just being patient with me while I've been gone and took a little break and giving me some time to catch up. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button for me. Make sure that you guys have commented, which y'all know how to do. Y'all know the assignment, okay? Make sure that you guys subscribe and hit the notification bell. And make sure that you are following us on all the platforms, because there are so many. I'm just playing. But no, we're on Blue Sky. I try to live Sky when I can watch it live. TikTok, IG, and Facebook. So yeah, y'all, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. And I will catch you for 57 and 58 shortly. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Bye-bye.